my channel mammals and my strangers. I just had this little thought I wanted to talk to you about because I think it's very important. It's a quote from 1 Timothy in the Bible, in the New Testament. And Timothy wrote, "For the love of money is the root of all evil." And a lovely person said that to me recently. And I felt myself kind of quivering. I just didn't like hearing that. And I know now why. And I wanted to share it with you. This person was talking about how they didn't have enough money. They would go to the stores, like the big department hardware stores, and try to buy cabinetry for their renovation of their kitchen or some other expensive room in their house. And for 10 years they would go and find things. They could afford some things but not everything. And then they could copy things too by finding other things. And then they found that they could actually find things that weren't just copying. They actually ended up in a situation where they found something and thought, whoa, this is great, let's do this. So the stair treads, no, they're not the treads, what do we call that? The spindles in their house are made out of bed columns, the four corners of a bed. And they had so much fun discovering that. And this lovely person said, so you see, for the love of money is the root of all evil. So it's better when you're poor. And that money takes away your discovery and your creativity. And it's a very bad thing. And I thought, no, for me that wasn't quite right. I mean, it doesn't mean we don't think in many ways alike, this lovely person. But it was just a subtle thing that I felt I wanted to share with you. Because nothing controls us. No thing. And money has no power. It doesn't speak. We're not stupid animals that kind of go blindly along and find that we're in evil because we were told that money was lovely. And so we want to realize that money cannot take our joy away, nor give it to us. Both ways. And then you don't live your life thinking, well, I have to stay poor, or I'm going to lose my creativity, or I'm not going to find my creativity, or I'm not going to be able to invent or something. And I've always felt that, when Jesus needed to pay the taxes for one of his disciples, I think it was Timothy actually, or one of them, he went and he got a coin out of the fish's mouth. He got the money he needed to pay the taxes. And so Jesus didn't obviously draw lines on what is a God's gift and what is, a bad thing to have. So it was so precious for me to see that Jesus didn't make up rules about good things and bad things. It's just that the love of something gets in the way of our love of God. And thus, we maybe can't hear all the loving things that God gives us. But God gives us love in so many different ways. We don't need to judge. All we need to do is judge righteous judgment. Just knowing that infinite ways come to us. And as long as we don't get swallowed up in them and start making a meal of them, we aren't harmed by anything. The lack thereof or the abundance thereof. And I have so many associates of people that I know that are very wealthy, but you would never feel any lack of creativity. I mean, these people, they work so hard and they have so much fun and they're so childlike, and they've roughed it. They love rough adventures, and oh, they're just such wonderful people. And they haven't ever been harmed by, they're not in love with their money. They don't have to have money. They're way over it. And that's how I feel. I've had money, and I never even knew it because I was so busy working. I loved just doing the work. Maybe I would buy a salad instead of a French fry. That's about as far as I would go. Now I don't buy salads anymore. But just this, and it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. We're always provided, always, with everything we need, more than we accept. God's love is so big, we don't even accept it. And so we don't need to judge. God doesn't judge. God only judges our love. And that love is from God. And it goes out into every corner of the world, and it doesn't judge people. Some people, have a problem, but not all people, and not at all times. So that's my little thought, is that we don't need to let anything give us fear, a sense of fear, like I might be lacking something if I don't live in lack. And that's how sometimes quotes from the Bible can be taken literally, or they can be taken, what's that called, fundamentally. Like a fundamentalist would just take it word for word, instead of thinking, well, what's this really mean? And then how do I make sure I understand it and practice it in the ways that it's meant to be? And I'm sure that's what it was meant to be, is that the love over God of money is a mistake, and it actually starves us. But the love of God gives us abundance no matter which way it needs to come. It just cannot be stopped. I wanted to tell you this story. Most of you probably already know it. It's a story to illustrate a moral, I guess. It's a story of a flood. And all this family was on top of their rooftop of their house because their house had flooded, and all that was left was the peak of the roof. And they were praying to God. They were praying to be rescued and saved. And some people in a rowboat rode by and said, "Oh, we have room. Want to come on with us and get a ride?" And they said, "Oh, no, we're praying. God's going to help us." And then a bunch of inner tubes came by. I'm just thinking of what these things could be. Or a big beam of a tree or something. And each one was like, "No, we're waiting. God is coming. We know God is going to come." And then the people didn't survive the flood. And when, this is all like allegorical, they were in heaven, and God said, they said to God, "Why didn't you save us? We were praying." And God said, "Well, I sent you a rowboat, and I sent you a inner tube, and I sent you a tree branch, and I sent, why didn't you accept it?" And you see, they thought in very narrow ways of just one way of that God takes care of his creation. And if we open up our thought, that's such a savior right there. Anyway, it's something to think about, not ever to judge what's a real savior. But as long as it's moral and pure and full of joy and light and trust, and put to good use for the world, to make a better world always. Okay, so long.